goes, gamers! We've got 6 recipes to get through. This is Mold Breaker Corn Tiramisu from Pokémon Sleep. Its item description is, this tiramisu recipe defies precedent by relying on the sweetness of corn alone. It's made with 14 rousing coffee, 14 green grass corn, and 12 moo milk. When you first feed this to your Snorlax, it can increase its sleep power by 7,125 points. So we're working with looks, method, and ingredients. Starting off with our looks. Corn tiramisu needs 3 distinct yellow layers, a green 3-leafed plant, and a white plate with a brown trim and inner line. For method, everything in Pokémon Sleep is made in a large pot over a fire and fanned to speed up the process. I don't have the skills or the fire pit needed to do this. If you'd like to see us attempt that in a future video, let us know in the comments. However, we will still be using one part of the cooking method. Before we get into ingredients, I am not a human nor a chef. I have never made tiramisu or any of its components, even coffee. So we're using recipes made by real human chefs. We'll be using 6 whole recipes in this episode to make 2 kinds of tiramisu. 1 ladyfinger tiramisu and 1 cornbread tiramisu. We're going to use the amount of cornmeal in these recipes to reduce our ingredients from enough to feed a Snorlax to enough to feed my humans. So let's get into math. Since we're basing our ratios off the cornmeal, let's start with the green grass corn. So there are 14 corn cobs in the original recipe. On average, a corn cob yields 3/4 a cup of corn. With 14 cobs, we'll have 10.5 cups of corn. From there, 1 cup of corn is roughly half a cup of corn flour. So in total, the base recipe uses 5 1/4 cup of corn flour. The milk is a little easier. Each moo milk is depicted in a milk bottle. Milk bottles are typically a pint, which in the US is 16 ounces to 2 cups. So in total, the base recipe uses 24 cups of milk. And finally, the rousing coffee beans. There are 5 beans in the image for rousing coffee beans. We'll multiply that by 14 and we'll get 70 beans in total. This is enough to make at least 6 ounces to 1 cup of coffee. So here are our totals for the base recipe. For our cornbread tiramisu, we'll be using 1 1/4 cup of cornmeal, and we'll be using 1 cup of cornmeal for our ladyfinger tiramisu. That means we'll need to reduce the milk by 24% for our first recipe and 19% for the second. We don't need to reduce the amount of coffee because most tiramisu's recipes ask for a cup of coffee but don't use the entire cup. So here's our final ingredient totals. Across our 2 tiramisus, we'll be using cornmeal. You could grind your own, but we don't have the budget. Milk, heavy whipping cream, buttermilk, espresso beans, espresso powder. We went with espresso over regular coffee beans because it looks closer to the picture and it's more rousing. And the most important item of all, the magic cart fan to speed everything up. Let's begin with the ladyfinger tiramisu. We'll be framing our recipe off of Binging with Babish's tiramisu recipe. For the ladyfingers, we'll use Preppy Kitchen's recipe, but we'll substitute the flour for cornmeal. And so we don't exceed our milk quota, we'll be substituting the mascarpone cheese for Bigger Bolder Baking's homemade cream cheese. We're going to start with the cream cheese recipe from Bigger Bolder Baking. Start by adding 4 cups of whole milk to a saucepan, bringing up to a simmer on medium-high heat, stirring occasionally. We'll use our magic cart fan to speed up the process. Once it comes to a simmer, we'll turn it down to medium heat and start adding 3 tablespoons of lemon juice, a tablespoon at a time, stirring between each one. After adding the lemon juice, our mixture had curdled. We poured this mixture into a cheesecloth over a sieve in a heat-proof bowl and let it sit for 15 minutes. Once our curds had cooled, with the aid of our fan, we wrung out the remaining liquid and added them to our food processor and processed them until they were creamy. It wasn't getting very smooth, so I added a bit of a wayback and a teaspoon of salt for flavor before processing it again. Next, we needed to prepare our ladyfingers. We're using Preppy Kitchen's ladyfinger recipe, but substituting out the flour for corn flour. If you like baking, definitely check out Chef John's channel. For this recipe, we'll need 3 large eggs separated, half a cup of granulated sugar divided, 1/2 teaspoon vanilla extract, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1 cup fine cornmeal, 5 teaspoons cornstarch, and powdered sugar for dusting. In a bowl, we combined our egg yellows, half of our sugar, salt, and vanilla. Then we whipped it until fluffy and pale. Next, using our stand mixture, we whipped our eggs whites until soft peaks formed, and we slowly added our remaining sugar until it was glossy and thick. Then we needed to combine the two mixtures. Adding half the egg whites at a time, we folded them gently into our yellows until they were all combined. This was the step that had me the most nervous for this episode. We needed to sift the cornmeal and cornstarch over the batter while slowly folding it in. I was so worried the batter would flatten from how heavy the cornmeal was, and I'd have corn sticks rather than ladyfingers. With our ingredients successfully combined, we put our batter into a piping bag and piped our ladyfingers onto parchment paper. The batter came out so quick, they were a bit messy. After dusting them with powdered sugar, we baked them in the oven on 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 minutes. Once our ladyfingers had cooled with the help of our Magikarp fan, it was time to brew the coffee. For the coffee, we freshly ground 70 espresso beans and added the grounds to our French press. We poured in the hot water and left it to cool to room temperature. The last leg of our first tiramisu, we needed to make the cream. The recipe is from Binging with Babish's tiramisu video. We'll need 5 more eggs split into whites and yolks, and we'll beat the whites until soft peaks form. Add 25 grams of sugar and whip till glossy. Then for our yolks, we'll whip them, add our 50 grams of sugar and a tablespoon of cocoa for color, and beat the whole mixture until it's pale and thoroughly combined. Next, we fold our yolks and 450 grams of room temperature cream cheese a little at a time. I was short some grams, so I added a little bit of the mascarpone we'll be making later in the video. Then we fold in our eggs, and it's on to assembly. So everything stays in place. We began with the cream, then layered on our ladyfingers and brushed them with the coffee, alternating between cream and ladyfingers until we had our 3 distinct layers. Then we set it in the fridge until it was time to plate. Phew! We're still not done, gamers! For our cornbread tiramisu, we'll be framing the recipe off King Arthur's Baking Company tiramisu recipe, which uses cake instead of ladyfingers. The cake we'll be using is Joshua Weissman's cornbread recipe, and we'll be swapping out the cream cheese for Chef John's homemade mascarpone cheese to mate our milk quota. We're going to start with the mascarpone cheese recipe, brought to us today by Food Wishes / All Recipes and Chef John. Start by bringing 2 cups of heavy cream to between 185 to 190 degrees Fahrenheit over medium heat. Next, we'll add in our tablespoon of lemon juice and whisk to combine. Stir roughly 3 minutes, then let it sit to cool for 30 minutes. Once it's cooled, we'll strain our mixture into a kitchen towel placed in a sieve over a heat-proof bowl. Then let it cool to room temperature before covering it in cling wrap and letting it chill overnight. Next, we'll prepare our cornbread. We're using Joshua Weissman's Ultra Easy Cornbread recipe. For this recipe, we'll need 113 grams of butter, 185 grams of all-purpose flour, 70 grams of sugar, 50 grams of light brown sugar, 6 grams of fine sea salt, 13 grams of baking powder, 175 grams of cornmeal, 2 eggs, and 350 milliliters of buttermilk. First, we melted our butter down over medium heat. Next, we browned our butter, speeding it along with the help of our fan. This step is optional, and I would recommend skipping it, but you'll see why later. And while that cooled, we added our cornmeal, flour, brown sugar, salt, sugar, and baking powder in a bowl and whisked to combine. In a separate bowl, we whisked our eggs together with our milk and combined it with our brown butter. We then mixed together our wet and dry ingredients and poured it all into a lined, greased baking pan before baking it in the oven at 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Then we cooled it down before moving on to our next step. The coffee for this recipe was easy. We boiled a cup of water, added a tablespoon of instant espresso, and then let it sit to cool at room temperature. Finally, for our last recipe, we used King Arthur Baking Company's tiramisu cream recipe. In the bowl of our stand mixer, we combined the cream, mascarpone, and vanilla and whisked until smooth. Then we added powdered sugar and 3 tablespoons of cocoa powder for color to the cream. And we whisked that until soft medium peaks formed. We probably needed a little bit more color, but it was time to assemble. We cut our cornbread into 4 pieces, cutting it horizontally and vertically to make the thin layers. We started once again with a layer of cream, then we laid down our layer of cornbread, brush it with coffee, and repeat until we had 3 distinct layers. We left that to chill before plating. With both our tiramisus ready for plating, we dusted them in cocoa powder and began the cutting process. We dipped the knife in water between cuts to get cleaner lines. The ladyfinger tiramisu was easy to remove because we only filled half the tray, but we had to sacrifice a piece of the cornbread tiramisu to get that money piece. With both of our tiramisus topped with a sprig of mint, it was time to see how they turned out.
Welcome back, gamers, to another episode. I'm Brian, as always. With us again is our substitute Nan, and today here with us is Hysterical.
Yay.
Today we're eating the corn tiramisu, requested by Hysterical. You know, another fantastic food up here on our board of video game foods to review. So today we're gonna test it out. We're gonna do a little taste test, and we're gonna let you know how our chef did. So let's get ready. Here's our Magikarp fan. He can't stand up on his own, so he's gonna lay down here on the table. And then we're going to give us the big old reveal, and boom! Oh! Looking pretty fancy. Even got some little garnish on there.
Yeah, look at that.
So yeah, we've got, over here is our ladyfinger plate, and over there is our just straight up corn finger plate. So, cornbread plate. So here, we're gonna, no, go ahead, take your piece.
I'm a cornbread fan, so I'm happy.
Yeah, I'm gonna take this, and we're gonna taste it together and see how it tastes.
That's really fucking good.
It is an interesting flavor. It is good, but sort of the savoriness of the cornbread is definitely a different flavor from what you expect from a tiramisu. It's very good though.
Yeah.
It's
I'm gonna go back for a second.
Well, if you're going back, I'm going back too.
I might eat this whole plate. Honestly.
Maybe let's try both before we just
You're
dig
gonna
in.
have to stop me. You're literally gonna have to restrain me.
I mean, whatever. Stop being weird on camera.
Me?
You. Me?
That's also really fucking Sorry, was I not supposed to curse?
It's all good.
It's all good.
This one's my favorite, honestly.
I like the texture of that one a lot. I like this because I like it. It's really dense.
That one's very unique flavor for a tiramisu. This one just straight up tastes like a regular ass tiramisu. It's very, very good. Fucking dropping shit on the table, Hysterical.
That's what I'm here for.
Which one do you think looks more like the Pokémon food?
That one.
I think it's this one.
Yeah, definitely the cornbread one.
It's a lot more sweeter than this one. For sure.
But yeah.
But they're both very good. The little garnish, the little piece of meat on it.
Maybe just eat the mint.
I'm not gonna eat
Do
it.
it.
I'm not a psycho.
Do it.
No, thank you.
Do it.
No.
Come on. Together.
Oh my god.
Together.
Never eaten that before.
Yeah.
No, I can taste the outdoors.
Usually I can bully her into doing stuff, but today I can't.
Not on camera. Not on camera.
But, thank you for coming. Thank you for enjoying the food with us again today. Magikarp, was here, hung out with us.
It's a solid 10 out of 10 breakfast.
Yeah, was very, very good. We'll see you next time. Hopefully our substitute Nan will break and true Nan will appear. We'll see. You'll have to come back and check it out next time. Thanks.
Yeah.
Say goodbye, Hysterical.
Goodbye. I'm just really into eating it.
It was a lot of work, but my humans seemed to really enjoy the tiramisu. There's still room for improvement. The cream needed to be a bit darker, and I think I should have tried to make a corn cake instead of cornbread. I also would forgo the brown butter if I had the chance to make it again. It gave a toasty, nutty flavor that kind of clashed with the coffee and cream. Let me know in the comments below if you'd like to see us try this again in a future episode, or if you try to make your own at home. Share the love around the internet, and go check out the great creators I got these recipes from. Links in the description down below. It's amazing the things we can make together when we just click start. Until next time, gamers, this is Mookie, logging out.